familiar faces in the audience. For the people who wonder where everybody came from, these are my kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids, one great-grandkids. So anyway, my name is Steve Engine Paddy. I'm a teller of tales of the railroads of old, when steam engines ruled and this country was born. I tell of my stories in prose and in song, of the men and steam engines that are gone for so long. This country was young like a baby, you see, still down on the floor on her hands and her knees. Steam taught her to crawl and walk and to run as she moved across the country towards the setting sun. I heard a wiffle ball, but I guess I didn't. Anyway, my name is Pat McInnis, and I've all along been a fan of the railroad. My dad worked on the railroad, my grandfather worked on the railroad, and I even spent one summer working on the railroad myself as a yard clerk and call boy. Yard clerk is fairly self-explanatory, call boy may be self-explanatory, but that's not really what it is. Anyway, I've got these are all railroad songs that I wrote, and I'm going to play a few for you. I'm a railroad man. I ride those big steam engines every chance I can. Illinois Central number 9, everything you don't mind. I'm a railroad. I'm a railroad man. I sat in a whole jungle while I made my plans and caught a train to Tennessee and now Miami. I'm a railroad man. I'm a railroad man. I worked in all those railroads across this land. The sun was working the snow, 110, 20 below. I'm a railroad man. I'm a railroad man. I guess that you could say that I'm a railroad fan. Tell the stories, sing the song. Some are true, some are wrong. I'm a railroad I'm a railroad man. Yes, I'm a railroad. I'm a railroad man. I'm a railroad. This is a lot of the songs. Well, actually, almost all the songs I've written
have got some meaning. And this one here I call Pat and Mike. And it's about the Irish that left the Emerald Isle and came to America because literally there's no food in Ireland. The potato crop, which you take a potato and you put it in the ground and it grows. And one year, one summer, when they were getting ready to plant the potatoes, they opened up the bin where the potatoes were and they were all spoiled. They couldn't do anything. And a lot of people, I think of probably, I don't know the exact number, but probably half the people in Ireland either died of starvation or moved to the United States. And both of it was a tough job, obviously starving with that. But it cost money to move to the United States. A lot of them didn't have it. But this song here I call Pat and Mike. And it describes a couple of brothers that came to America and got by. Anyway, here we go. Pat and Mike were down the road, lifting the yard and buffalo, moving the railway to the west, doing the things that they did best. They came to this country in '55, needed to work to stay alive. There was work for the other guy, but dogs and Irish he got alive. Pat and Mike were down the road, building the yard of buffalo, moving the railway to the west, doing the things that they did best. They fought for the Union in the war. They didn't know what the fight was for, but it gave them something to do, something to drink and something to chew. Pat and Mike were down the road, lifting the iron and buffalo, moving the railway to the west, doing the things that they did best. The war got over, they moved around, looking for work, and guess what they found? On a railway across the land, looking for men that didn't sand. Pat and Mike were on the road, lifting the iron and buffalo, moving the railway to the west, doing the things that they did best. The railroads meant an awful lot for the United States. I think back in 1800, when they first brought the railroad, I think was invented in England. And when they brought it to the United States, the first thing they did with it, it was kind of like a circus carousel. They had a big fence around where the track was, and the train just went around in a little circle, people paid for a ride. And that was the start of the railroad in the United States. And I forgot where I'm going with this. But the railroad became very important in the United States, and then back during the Depression in 1929, 29, 30, 31, 32. I was a child of the Depression, by the way. I was born in 1932, which was pretty much in the middle of the Depression. My father had a brother that lost his job and couldn't handle it, and he became a hobo, and he left. In 1933, he left Wisconsin, and he never came back, except, well, I shouldn't say he never came back. He came back in a casket in 1946, and they buried him up in the, are you going to join me? He was buried up in Ashland, Wisconsin, where my grandparents were both buried, and eventually my mother and my dad. But this is a song about the many people that rode the rails, that left their homes and became hobos. My uncle, I guess, would be my uncle. He was a hobo. But even more than that, there were probably 250,000 teenagers that became hobos. They left their families for various reasons. A lot of them was they were another mouth to feed, and they simply couldn't afford to put that burden on their parents. And this is a song I wrote about a teenager that left his home and became a hobo. Riding on the railroad, old Swiss and cold. Riding on the railroad, don't care where I go. Seemed a good idea when I started on the road. Staying with my family was a mighty there to go. one I need a little help on. In 1902, I believe it was, the Grand Canyon Railroad was 100 years old, and it was called the Short Line. Short lines were the main lines were the Santa Fe was the main line, the Union Pacific, the Southern Pacific were all main lines. They crossed the country east to west. And then, but more so, there was a lot of what they call short lines that branched off of them and went various places. The one that went to the Grand Canyon was, one. And there's also short lines that came down to Phoenix from over down to Clarksdale, I don't know, something like that. Anyway, this is a song I wrote for the, they had a festival in 2002, that's right, 2002. And I was invited up there to play some songs, and I wrote this song for the Grand Canyon Railroad. Ain't it grand? Oh, ain't it grand? Grand Canyon Railroad, ain't it grand? Williams, Arizona, ain't way to the canyon on Grand Canyon Railroad, ain't it grand? 100 years ago, this short line first formed from Williams, Arizona, railroad headed north. Colorado Canyon was its final destination, the most spectacular view to get all of this young nation. Ain't it grand? Oh, ain't it grand? Grand Canyon Railroad, ain't it grand? Evans, Arizona, ain't way to the canyon now. Grand Canyon Railroad, ain't it grand? Ain't it grand? Oh, ain't it grand? Grand Canyon Railroad, ain't it grand? Williams, Arizona, ain't way to the canyon now. Grand Canyon Railroad, ain't it grand? Oh, Kenny came to visit, and he stared at the pond. The glory of the canyon was what our president saw. They called it the Grand Canyon, and it really made its mark. And we claimed in 1913, the nation's national park. Ain't it grand? Oh, ain't it grand? Grand Canyon Railroad, ain't it grand? Williams, Arizona, ain't way to the canyon now. Grand Canyon Railroad, ain't it grand? The railroad planned to visit, so they got there about 7. The party passengers thought that they had died gone together. People came from far and wide, they came from near and far to stay at the Bright Angel and the Elder Walk. Ain't it grand? Oh, ain't it grand? Grand Canyon Railroad, ain't it grand? Williams, Arizona, ain't way to the canyon now. Grand Canyon Railroad, ain't it grand? This is a song I wrote about the Santa Fe main line, but it could be applied to any of the main lines that went from back east someplace, mostly Chicago, went through Omaha, a lot of it went through Omaha. And this is a song I wrote, it's called Santa Fe Main Line. And what the story is that there's a guy that's lived in Chicago, and he's lived there, sorry about that, Dave. And he decides he just got to get out. And so he leaves for California. And I call it Santa Fe Main Line. This is also sweet. I'm going to California. Oh, that suits me fine. Going to California on Santa Fe Main Line. All my friends and family gonna leave them all behind as I travel across the country on the Santa Fe Main Line. Santa Fe Main Line, Santa Fe Main Line. Doesn't bother me, I don't hear well. Across this country on the Santa Fe Main Line. Memories going, it's leaving me a little bit, but I guess it's not too bad. This song is about Gilbert, Arizona. Right down the street, there's a railroad crossing, and across that railroad crossing, trains go across. And when a train goes across a railroad crossing, way off in the distance, before it gets there, you can hear the whistle blow. There's a long whistle, another long whistle, a short whistle, and then another long whistle. And this one I call the railroad crossing. See you again. Along, along, a short man along. That's the whistle signal when the train is coming on. Along, along, short man along. Whistle sing its sad and lonely song. There's a railroad train goes through our town, blows its whistle at the road. Crossing guards start to fall and
cars going a stopping along, long, shortening along. I love to hear that whistle sing a sad and lonesome song. When other cars are speeding up, mine is slowing down. I love to watch that train go across that street in my hometown. Along, along, shortening along. That's the whistle signal when the train is going on. Whistle signal tells us that the railroad train is coming fast. Roll down your window, stop the car, and watch that train go rolling fast. Along, long, shortening along. That's the whistle signal as the train is moving on. Along, along, shortening along. I love to hear that whistle sing sad and lonesome song. Actually, the trains don't actually make whistle sounds anymore. They're more like horns, but still the idea is still there. I love the old steam engines. When the summer that I worked on the railroad was one of the last summers where, before the Sioux Line Railroad in Wisconsin started using diesel engines, and the steam engines just sounded different. Even the way they ran across the tracks, and certainly the way things were run, they were a lot different. I know that everything was written down back in the 40s, I guess, late 40s, 49. Everything was written down, and the yard clerk, which was what I was, had to make a list of every train, what was on it, and it had a serial number. And then we were back in Wisconsin this past summer, or maybe it was the summer before, I don't really remember. But they do it now with all the switchmen have iPads. Anyway, kind of a little thing that they got all their information on. They put stuff in. The train goes into the yards. And when the train gets in the yards, the stuff is in the computer almost instantaneously, and the switchmen know what's going on. It's probably a good system, but it's not like it used to be. Anyway, this one here, I got a couple. Okay, I'm going to do, this is a song that I call, Works the Railroad. It's about the various jobs on the railroad. Maybe I don't have time for that. I guess I don't have time for that. I'll have to go to my, I got one more song, and I see I got about one more time here, but I think I mentioned earlier that my dad worked on the railroad, my grandpa worked on the railroad, I worked on the railroad, and railroading was kind of a thing with the McInnis side of my ancestors. My other side of my ancestors were lumberjacks and that sort of stuff. But I don't know any songs about lumberjacks. Is harder to write a song for than the railroads. But my grandfather worked on the railroad back in, I don't know, about 2000, I keep going back to the 2000, 1910, something like that. And in 1912, he was working in the yards up in Ashland. And he didn't come home at night. And the next day they found him floating in Lake Superior. Not the next day, a couple weeks later, they found him floating in Lake Superior. My dad was 12 years old. And the year after that, his father, or mother rather, told him to go down to the yard office and put on a big pair of overalls, like this I suppose, and go down to the yard office and ask for a job. And he did, and he went to work at age 13, passed through sixth grade. I think he must have been a very smart man, because he was ended up a lieutenant colonel during the Second World War, and he eventually was the yard master in Stevens Point, and that's what this song is about. I call it Railroad Man. I think this is it. Well, he worked on the railroad since he was a boy. Worked on the railroad and it
suited and fine. He was a switchman down in a switching yard. He was a switchman with a union card. Worked in Wisconsin most all his life. Had a couple children and a loving wife. Attack on Pearl, started a war. Had to leave Wisconsin, but he knew what for. He was an officer in the Armored Corps, a lieutenant colonel in the Second World War. Well, the war got over and he came back home. No more reason for him to roam. They put him in charge of the switching yard. It was a real big job, but for him not hard. He was a yard master that suited him fine. Was the boss of the yard on the old suit line. He was born in Stevens Point and was there he died. I look at his life with a lot of pride. Been gone a long time, since 72. I think of him now and I get a little blue, cause he was my father. Called him Dad, he had a real good life, so I won't be sad. Now that's the end of my little tale. My dad spent his life on the business of rails. My grandfather, he was a railroader too, and I even poured in a month or two. I guess you can call us a railroad fan. My dad, Gramps, and I was a railroad man. I guess you can call us a railroad fan. My dad, Gramps, and I was a railroad man. Bill Burkett has been playing, has supported me in many ways for the past 10, 15 years, and I really appreciate it. He's a musician. I'm not a musician. I'm a ditty writer. My wife says I don't write songs, I make ditties. But I really appreciate Bill playing with me, because as I say, he's a musician.
Wasn't that a good set? Don't go away.